Okay, so what if I told you that 93% of people who exercise regularly are like unknowingly sabotaging their sleep quality every single night? Yeah, so there's this groundbreaking study. It's huge, nearly 15,000 participants, 4 million person nights of data, and it just revealed something, well, shocking. It turns out most fitness enthusiasts are exercising at the worst possible time for sleep. I mean, we're talking about delayed sleep onset by up to 80 minutes, 80, and a 43-minute shorter sleep duration. On top of that, dangerously elevated heart rates throughout the entire night. But here's the fascinating part. Leaning in, there's a precise timing window that actually enhances your sleep quality, dramatically. Yeah, and I'll reveal the exact science-backed formula that can transform not just your sleep, but your entire recovery and performance. So stay with me, because at minute 7, I'll share the 1-hour rule that like 99% of fitness experts get completely wrong, and it could really revolutionize how you schedule your workouts. So here's what's really happening in your body after a workout. Exercise, it triggers this complex cascade of physiological changes. Your core body temperature spikes, your heart rate elevates, you get stress hormones like cortisol just flooding your system, and your sympathetic nervous system goes into overdrive. Right, now for sleep to occur naturally, your body needs the exact opposite conditions. It needs a dropping core temperature, a declining heart rate, and that parasympathetic nervous system activation. You know, what scientists call the rest and digest response. So there's this massive study published in Nature Communications in 2025. It tracked real-world exercise and sleep data from physically active adults, and what they discovered was just mind-blowing. It's the combination of exercise intensity and duration that creates what researchers are calling exercise strain. And get this strain has a dose-dependent relationship with sleep disruption. Okay, think of it like this. If your body is a car engine, intense exercise is like revving that engine to maximum RPM. Now imagine trying to immediately park and turn off that engine while it's still roaring at 6,000 RPM. That is exactly what happens when you exercise intensely close to bedtime. You know, traditional sleep advice has always been so incredibly vague. Just don't exercise before bed. But that's like saying don't eat unhealthy food. It's just not specific enough to be actionable, right? But the new research, it reveals something precise. It says that exercises ending within 4 hours of your habitual sleep time create progressive sleep disruption. But here's the kicker. It's not just about the timing. It's the exercise strain. So the study categorized exercise strain into 4 levels: light, moderate, high, and maximal. Light strain is stuff like a leisurely walk or gentle yoga. Moderate strain covers things like steady jogging or moderate weightlifting. High strain is your intense interval training or competitive sports. And maximal strain, that represents all-out efforts. You know, think CrossFit competitions or high-intensity athletic training. Okay, so here's what shocked the researchers. When maximal exercise ended just 2 hours before sleep time, participants had an 80-minute delay in falling asleep and a 43-minute reduction in total sleep time. Wow, and their resting heart rate stayed elevated by 9.4 beats per minute all night. And their heart rate variability, which is a key marker of recovery, that dropped by 32.6%. But what about that 90-minute rule you've probably heard of? Well, that's based on outdated research with really small sample sizes. The new data shows that's just nowhere near enough time for recovery from high-intensity exercise. Okay, now let me share something that might surprise you about morning workouts. When you exercise in the morning, say between 6 and 8 a.m., you're not just burning calories, you're actually programming your circadian rhythm for better sleep. Morning exercise, it triggers an earlier melatonin release and it shifts your internal clock forward. This is huge. It's huge because it makes you naturally feel tired earlier in the evening. It creates what scientists call sleep pressure right at the optimal time. In fact, studies show that people who exercise in the morning fall asleep 17% faster. They also spend more time in deep restorative sleep stages. And there's also this fascinating metabolic advantage. It turns out morning exercisers show superior fat burning, lower cholesterol levels, and better insulin sensitivity compared to evening exercisers. And here's something most people don't realize. If you're naturally a night owl, what chronobiologists call an evening chronotype, well, forcing yourself to exercise at 6 a.m. might actually work against your biology. The key is to understand your personal circadian preferences and work with them, not against them. You know what? If you're finding this information as fascinating as I am, go ahead and smash that like button and subscribe with notifications on, because I'll be diving even deeper into circadian optimization strategies in some upcoming videos. Okay, so here's where things get really interesting. Despite all the warnings about evening exercise, there are actually specific conditions where working out later in the day can improve your sleep. Yeah. Light to moderate intensity exercise, so think leisurely cycling, gentle swimming, or restorative yoga, if you complete that 2 to 4 hours before bed, can enhance sleep quality. These activities, they promote relaxation without triggering all that excessive sympathetic activation that messes with sleep. Yeah, one study found that evening resistance training, when it was kept at a moderate intensity, it actually reduced nighttime awakenings. And the researchers, they believe this happens because moderate exercise helps regulate neurotransmitters like orexin, which promotes wakefulness, without causing those temperature and heart rate spikes that interfere with sleep onset. But here's the crucial distinction, okay? We're talking about exercise that feels challenging, sure, but doesn't leave you breathless or drenched in sweat. Helpfully, if you can maintain a conversation throughout the workout, you're probably in the safe zone. So, professional athletes have a huge problem. A lot of their competitions and training sessions happen in the evening, right? It's all due to scheduling and broadcasting. So how do they maintain optimal sleep when their careers literally depend on high-intensity evening performance? Well, elite sports scientists have developed specific protocols. First, they use strategic melatonin supplementation. They'll take about 0.5 to 3 milligrams of melatonin 30 minutes after evening exercise to help reset that circadian rhythm. Second, they implement these aggressive cool-down protocols, things like ice baths, cooling vests, and controlled breathing techniques, all to accelerate the return to baseline physiological conditions. And there's also something called exercise tapering. That's where they gradually reduce intensity in the days before important competitions to minimize sleep disruption when it matters most. And this isn't just a theory. Olympic athletes and professional sports teams are using these exact strategies. So how do you apply this to your own life? Well, you can start by tracking your individual response. Maybe use a fitness tracker or even just keep a sleep journal for 2 weeks. Just note your exercise timing, the intensity, and how you slept that night. So here's your action plan. If you're currently exercising within 4 hours of bedtime and you're having sleep issues, try experimenting with moving your workouts earlier. And if that's impossible because of your schedule, maybe try reducing the intensity of your evening sessions, but keep the volume. For morning workouts, try to exercise within 2 hours of waking up and get some natural light exposure during or right after your session. This really maximizes the circadian rhythm benefits. Now, if you're an evening exerciser who sleeps well, hey, don't change what's working for you. The research shows there's significant individual variation. Some people are just naturally more resilient to evening exercise disruption. Okay, there's one more crucial factor that most people completely overlook: your cardiovascular fitness level. It dramatically affects how quickly you recover from exercise. Yeah, so highly trained individuals show faster autonomic nervous system recovery, and that means they can exercise later in the evening with less sleep disruption. This creates a really interesting paradox, right? The fitter you become, the more flexible your exercise timing can be. But if you're just starting a fitness routine, you need to be much more careful about that evening exercise timing. The research also shows that consecutive days of high-strain exercise can actually compound sleep disruption. So if you had an intense workout yesterday that affected your sleep, today's exercise will probably have an even greater impact unless you allow for extra recovery time. Right. So let me just summarize the game-changing insights we've covered today. The optimal exercise timing for sleep, it isn't about following generic rules. It's about understanding the interaction between your exercise strain, the timing, and your own individual physiology. For most people, yeah, completing exercise at least 4 hours before your usual bedtime is going to give you the best sleep outcomes. Morning exercise offers those extra circadian rhythm benefits, while light evening exercise can be beneficial if it's done correctly. The intensity and duration of your workout matter more than the exact time, and your fitness level affects your individual tolerance to evening exercise. Simple as that. Now, here's a question I'd like you to think about. What time do you currently exercise, and how do you truly feel it's affecting your sleep quality? Drop a comment below and let's discuss your experience. I promise I read every single one. Thank you for joining me on this deep dive into exercise timing and sleep science. And remember, optimal sleep, it's not a luxury. It is the foundation of peak performance, better health, and a higher quality of life. Until next time, sleep well and train smart.